1942. Britain stands alone in Europe. U-boats control the Atlantic, throttling vital supply lines from the Empire. If nothing is done, Britain will be starved out of the war in as little as 3 months.
Commander Gilbert Roberts, Royal Navy speaking.
Roberts, this is your Prime Minister speaking. Find out what's happening in the Atlantic. Find ways of sinking the U-boats.
Very good, sir. Tell me, when a U-boat is known to be attacking the convoy, what do you do?
Well, what can you do? It's a very tiny thing, and we can't see them.
I have a tactic. I signal Buttercup, and all my escorts turn outwards firing star shells. I bagged 3 U-boats on the last convoy, so it must be right.
Really?
Admiral Sir Percy Noble, Commander-in-Chief, Western Approaches speaking.
I shall need a staff. I'm starting a tactical school.
Well, you can carry on with it, but don't bother me. I'm busy fighting a war.
He wanted a staff. He got us.
But that's okay, because I'm a mathematician.
And looking at this data, I think Buttercup might just be luck. Let's prove it. This will be our ocean. We'll plot movements in chalk. We'll use blue for the U-boats so they can't be seen against the lino. And we'll put the escort commanders behind a screen and tell them only what can be seen from their bridge.
This is you, sir. Marigold is turning towards you with obviously full rudder and in increasing speed. No signal from her yet. The RT is receiving a rather long signal about a breakdown in freshwater machinery. Your AS operator has momentarily stopped the normal sweep and reports to you noise of several explosions bearing 295 degrees, returning to sweep.
What kind of noises?
Depth charges, I would think.
I think I ought to move up a bit to cover my position and that vacated by Marigold, don't you?
I think the director would think that way, sir. But don't clutter the RT air, will you?
We studied Buttercup. First, where were the 3 U-boats that Captain Walker sunk? Nowhere near Buttercup. 2 were miles off the convoy, spotted by an aircraft. The other was caught on the surface before making an attack. Second, Buttercup assumed the U-boats were attacking from outside the convoy, but the ships attacked on convoy, HG-76, could not have been, and the U-boats were seen lining up their shots from inside the convoy. Third, where were the ASDIC contacts? Every single contact Walker made was picked up to the rear of the exploded merchantman. Buttercup was turning outward from the convoy in all directions, but contact was only ever made at the rear.
The U-boats sneak into the convoy and make an attack and then dive. They go deep and silent to let the convoy pass over their head and leave them behind. Unless they're spotted, then they'll make a break for it on the surface where they can outrun a corvette.
So what we'll do when there's an explosion in the convoy is peel the escorts off to form up behind the convoy and trawl up the U-boat.
Admiral, we have something to show you.
There was a slightly condescending air about the C&C when he showed up.
Now, what did this retired commander think he could achieve in a couple of weeks with his chalk and string school, when a desperate battle had been and was being waged out in the Atlantic with real men, real ships, and real U-boats?
It was a frosty feeling of, come on, get on with it and let me get back to the war.
We showed him.
You showed me all right. Now, what's this tactic called?
Raspberry, because to Herr Hitler.
And to Captain Walker too.
Captain Walker never came to our school. He didn't get on with Roberts. Do you know why? Because Roberts named every one of our tactics as a middle finger to the captain. Walker had Buttercup. We trumped it with Raspberry. Walker had Alpha Search. WATU replaced it with Beta Search. Step aside. The torpedo or Walker?
Service record says, a superfluity of self-confidence, inclined to be highly strung, apt to take life a little seriously.
I am signalling the Admiralty that the first investigations of your tactical school show a cardinal error in our anti-submarine thinking, and that a new immediate and concentrated counterattack will be signalled to the fleet in 24 hours. And Roberts, sew on your 4th stripe.
That's right. We did the hard work. He got promotion. Listen to the men and you'd think Roberts was the only one here.
Much has been written about Captain Roberts, who ran the place. He did invaluable work by careful analysis of records. He detected new enemy methods of attack. He invented new search schemes for finding U-boats, and he helped weld groups together. But, above all, he made a number of very stupid officers really think. Sometimes for the very first time in their lives.
I think you'll find that was us.
I was sent off to the tactical school in Liverpool run by Captain Roberts with a small staff and some very bright wrens. We, all commanding officers, would be placed in small cubicles able to see only a small portion of the ocean battlefield laid out on the floor. Each would have to tell an attendant wren what we'd do in a set of different circumstances as the battle progressed. I remember once handing my written answer to a particularly clued-up girl.
No, sir, I do not think that you should do that.
Good God, I thought. What on earth does this girl know about it? Such was her confident, tactful tone, however, that meekly I said, "Oh, why not?" And she explained convincingly. It was an astonishingly effective setup.
My service record says, did very great work for the Western Approaches Command. Handled personnel with intelligence and tact.
When Sir Max Horton took over as Commander-in-Chief Western Approaches, he visited the tactical school. With all the lordly superiority of an ace submariner, he said,
"All right. We'll see what use this business is."
We offered to show him a demonstration of a foolproof search for a U-boat sighted by an escort vessel in daylight.
I would like to work the U-boat myself.
So he was curtained off at the tactical table with the same restricted view of the escort vessel that he would have in practice.
I dived my U-boat and moved away as only a submariner knows how.
3 times Horton took the U-boat into action, and 3 times it was sunk.
This is all very well, but you can all see what my U-boat is doing.
He disliked being sunk, even as a tiny wooden model.
We didn't dare tell him that the warship that had sunk him 3 times was being manoeuvred by me, working blind in another room.
September 1943. HMS Orchis is in the escort screen, 5 days out of Liverpool for Halifax. HMCS St. Croix sights a U-boat, engages, and is torpedoed. This is something new. They're going for the escorts.
There's something funny in the data from last month. I think it could be a new weapon. An acoustic torpedo?
A fog rolls in while we're picking up survivors. Then 1, 2, 3, 7 U-boats pop up around us. Why don't they fire?
An acoustic torpedo would need engine noise to home in on.
Go slow and they can't get you.
The Wolfpack only has acoustic torpedoes. That's why they didn't attack Orchis just now.
Get wargaming. We need a counter-tactic.
At last, the fog is clearing. HMS Itchen sees a U-boat, signals for us to follow, and engages. A torpedo struck Itchen and she blew up at once with a terrible explosion. Orchis took the full force of the blast and an enormous quantity of Itchen's superstructure rained down on Orchis.
We gamed all night, in tears at the loss of Itchen and Orchis.
Step aside. The U-boat wants you to engage, needs you to commit to the attack at full speed to chase your engine noise. And then he'll fire an acoustic torpedo and dive.
So, when you see a U-boat dive, you can assume he's fired an acoustic torpedo. The T5 has a 60-degree look angle on the homing head, so if you immediately turn to put the U-boat on the opposite bow, 2 things happen.
1. That puts you outside the look angle of the homing head. By the time it's looking to home in on you, you're gone, and it'll continue in a straight line.
2. The U-boat has no idea you've slipped his trap and are setting your own. We know how to find a U-boat when he's dived.
All the bridge and deck personnel lay unconscious. Generators were lifted off their mountings. No instruments worked. No lights, no RT, no wireless, no radar. Poor Orchis lay there almost a wreck. Then, incredibly, an RCN lieutenant, Dave Dyer, came up from the chaos below with steaming jugs of cocoa and moved from man to man reviving his colleagues. The first thing we fixed was the radio, and the first thing we heard through our jury-rigged antenna was the new tactics step aside from Liverpool.
One lesson of this battle, which I think is very important, is the value of the closest and most constant cooperation between the staffs and the scientists. Operational research was something new in this war, and in no field of warfare was its application more fruitful than in operations against U-boats. Before the war, I do not think it ever occurred to any officer that analysts in grey flannel bags and sometimes thick spectacles would, in many respects, be able to teach him his business in directing operations of war, and would tell him things which he did not know about the killing of U-boats. I have no hesitation in saying, from some little experience of command in war, that the operational research scientist is an absolutely indispensable member of the fighting staff in these modern times.
The boys all got medals. Of course they did. What did we get? This write-up in the local paper.
The Wrens who take part in these operations find them of absorbing interest.
And all our names spelled wrong in Roberts' biography.
The takeaway from WATU's story is not we can do it. Women too can be excellent wargamers. It's that WATU's wargamers were excellent because they were women. Our excellence was diversity.
Between us was the tactical, technical, social and cultural knowledge necessary to speak to naval officers from every allied nation and be heard.
We believe that promoting diversity and inclusion is the right thing to do. Diversity and inclusion are more than just words for us. They are the hard and fast principles guiding how we will support our teams, cultivate leaders, and create a community that supports everyone in it.